At 06:42 on September 19, 1944, Sergeant Henry Hartman hunched in the turret of his M18 Hellcat tank destroyer, 3 miles east of Arracourt, France. A dense, sickening fog rolled across the fields ahead. He knew the German 5th Panzer Army was out there, tasked with destroying his entire battalion. At 24, with 47 days in combat and 6 German vehicles to his name, he faced the impossible. Intelligence reported the 113th Panzer Brigade was closing, carrying 45 new Panther tanks. Each one boasted $5.5 inches of frontal armor, enough to shrug off any American round at any distance. Hartman's M18, by contrast, had a maximum of 1 inch of armor. The thickest plate on the whole vehicle was a mere 25 millimeters. The floor, less than 5 millimeters. A German machine gun could pierce its sides. The open-topped turret was a gaping maw, exposing the 5-man crew to mortars, grenades, and snipers. Among the Third Army's tank crews, the M18 was infamous. The paper coffin, the death trap, the fastest way to die in France, but it was undeniably fast. 55 miles per hour on the open road, twice the speed of a Sherman, 3 times that of a Tiger. The Army's tank destroyer doctrine was a suicidal paradox: speed over armor. Hit and run, flank and kill, never stand and fight. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion had been the first M18 unit in Europe, landing at Utah Beach 68 days prior. They were supposed to be the mobile, lethal answer to German armor. In 68 days, they had racked up 93 German kills. The cost was brutal: 18 M18s destroyed, 22 damaged, 41 men killed, 73 wounded. The ledger was clear. German steel destroyed American tank destroyers, especially the Panther. The Panther's 75mm gun could puncture an M18 from 2,000 meters away. The M18's 76mm gun could not penetrate a Panther's front armor at any range, not even point blank. To kill a Panther, they had to hit the thin side or rear armor, a maneuver that required closing the distance, which meant accepting a near-certain death sentence. Hartman's 5-man crew, driver, assistant driver, gunner, loader, commander, knew the odds. Third Army intelligence put the casualty rate for tank destroyer crews at 40%. Within 90 days, the 704th had already exceeded that average. Company C had bled out 6 M18s in the last 3 weeks, losing 19 men killed and 8 wounded. They started with 12 tank destroyers. They were now down to 10 operational vehicles. Replacements were always promised, and always failed to arrive. Every sunrise brought new names to the casualty list. Every afternoon brought new orders to advance. The Germans knew the M18's weakness. Panther crews were trained to target the fast, lightly armored M18s first, eliminate the threat, then deal with the slower Shermans. German tankers had a cold name for it: the Blechbüchse, the tin can. If you want to witness how Hartman's paper-thin tank survived against German steel, the fog thickened, dropping visibility to 30 feet. The radio crackled with static before Lieutenant Edwin Leeper's voice cut through. German armor spotted. Panthers moving toward Réchicourt-La Petite. Company C ordered forward. Hartman's platoon will take point. 4 M18s against 45 Panthers. Dense fog. Hartman's thin armor was about to meet the most feared tank in the German army at point-blank range. At 0658, the M18 rolled forward. Its 9-cylinder Continental R975 radial engine, the same as a Sherman, but pushing half the weight, roared. The Hellcat accelerated faster than any tracked vehicle of the war. That speed was their only prayer. Leeper's platoon moved out in a tight formation, 20 meters spacing. The fog was so thick Hartman could barely see the vehicle ahead. The road snaked northeast toward the village. Intelligence placed. German armor massing near the village. 5th Panzer Army was launching a massive counterattack to push the Third Army back across the Moselle River. The 704th TD Battalion was attached to the 4th Armored Division, which had been spearheading General Patton's drive crossing the Moselle 2 weeks ago, liberating Lunéville, and threatening Nancy. Now the counterattack was here with the 111th and 113th Panzer Brigades, 90 brand new factory fresh Panthers manned by barely trained cruise, but the tanks were lethal. 45 tons of sloped German steel, armed with a long-barreled 75mm gun. It could kill a Sherman at 3,000 meters. Its armor could stop American tank rounds point blank. Most American crews feared the Panther more than the Tiger. The M18 was the antithesis, 19 tons. Open turret 76mm gun, 55 mph speed. The designers had stripped away everything for mobility. The armor was so thin that crew survival depended entirely on not being hit. Doctrine screamed for ambush tactics. Find a position. Wait for the enemy fire from cover, destroy the target, and relocate before return fire arrived. But doctrine assumed visibility, clear fields of fire, and time to maneuver. The fog annihilated all of that Hartman's crew would see. German tanks at 30 feet, maybe less. At that range, even a Panther's machine gun could penetrate the M18's flanks, turning the crew compartment into a death trap. The platoon reached a crossroads at 072. Leapers. M18 took the lead. Hartman's second followed. By 2 more Hellcats, they advanced at a snail's pace 15 maps. The fog would not lift. Hartman checked his stores, 45 rounds, a mix of armor-piercing AP and high-explosive HE. The AP used the M62 solid shot. It could penetrate 88 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters. Against the Panther's frontal plate, it would simply bounce. Against the side, it might penetrate. Only the rear guaranteed a kill. The key was the angle. The M18 had to hit the flank or rear, which meant maneuvering, which meant exposing their vulnerable hide to the German guns. Every tank destroyer crew knew the brutal equation. Speed versus armor. The M18 had staked everything on speed. The radio hissed again. Contact front! German armor. Range unknown. Visibility. 30 feet. Leaper's voice was steady. All vehicles hold position. Prepare to engage! Hartman strained his eyes into the white abyss. Somewhere ahead, Panthers were lumbering toward them. The fastest tank destroyer of the war was about to fight. The most heavily armored tank in Europe at 0 visibility at War 719. Leaper spotted a gun barrel, 30 feet ahead, emerging from the mist. A Panther. It was moving slowly, blindly searching. The crew had no idea. 4 American tank destroyers were waiting. Leaper signaled, deploy. No radio traffic. The 4 M18s fanned out, 40 meters apart. Hartman's driver moved 10 meters left and stopped. The gunner traversed the turret. The loader, heart hammering, slammed an AP round into the breech. The Panther kept coming, 25 feet. The German commander stood exposed in his cupola, scanning the soup. He never saw the Hellcats. Leaper fired first. The 76mm gun cracked. The AP round hit the Panther's side armor at a perfect 90-degree angle. Penetration. The German tank shuddered. Smoke billowed from the engine deck. 3 crewmen bailed out and ran into the fog. 5 seconds later, a second Panther appeared, same slow advance. The Germans had no idea their leader was burning. Hartman's gunner fired. The round hit low, shredding the running gear. The Panther stopped, crippled, its track destroyed. The turret began to traverse, hunting the threat. Hartman's loader was already ready. The gunner fired again. This time the shell hit the turret ring, jamming the massive gun. The crew abandoned the vehicle. 2 Panthers destroyed. 2 minutes. 0 American casualties. Then the fog shifted. A gust from the east. Visibility jumped to 50 feet. And Hartman saw the horror they were facing. Dozens of Panthers spread across the field. The entire 113th Panzer Brigade was advancing in a massive, single-minded column. No flanking security. No reconnaissance. Driving blind into the ambush, Leaper's platoon opened up. 4 M18s firing rapidly from scattered positions. The Germans couldn't pinpoint the source of the rounds. Panther after Panther took hits. Side armor, rear armor, engine decks, ammunition stowage. The tanks began exploding. The 113th tried to return fire, but the fog made targeting impossible. German rounds flew wild, detonating uselessly in the empty fields. Not one round found an M18. Hartman's crew worked like a machine. The loader cycled around every 8 seconds. AP, She. AP. The gunner tracked targets from 30 to 60 feet, point blank. Every shot penetrated. Their thin armor didn't matter because the Germans couldn't see them to shoot back. By 0724, Leaper's platoon had knocked out 15 German tanks. 5 minutes of combat, 15 Panthers destroyed. 3 M18s were later lost, not to German fire, but mechanical failure and friendly artillery. But Hartman's vehicle fought on. Then the radio crackled. Company C moving up. Captain Tom Evans bringing 2 more platoons. 8 additional M18s. The entire company was about to engage. Hartman spotted 6 more. Panthers emerging from the mist, heading straight for his lone Hellcat. 6 against 1. 30 feet of visibility. His loader had 23 rounds left. Hartman made a decision. Attack. Speed was useless in this fog. Armor was irrelevant. Their only advantage was surprise. They could see them. The Germans couldn't see them. The driver floored it. The Hellcat surged forward at 30 mph through the fog. The 6 Panthers were moving in single file 50 feet apart. Standard German column. The lead Panther was 70 feet ahead. Hartman's gunner acquired the target. First shot, 0726, range 60 feet. Side armor. The round penetrated just behind the turret. The Panther stopped. The crew bailed. The other 5 Panthers kept moving. They hadn't heard the shot over their own engine noise. Hartman's M18 shifted 20 feet to the right. Engine running, ready to move again. The second Panther appeared. The gunner fired, 8 seconds after the first shot. The AP round crippled the running gear. The tank lurched, stopped. The turret began to traverse, too slow. The loader had the round ready. Fire again! Turret ring! The Panther's gun froze mid-traverse. 2 down, 4 Panthers still advancing, still blind. The M18 relocated 40 feet forward and 10 feet left, positioning itself behind a low stone wall. Minimal cover, but enough to break the silhouette. The third Panther rolled past, 20 feet away, utterly unaware. Hartman's gunner waited, letting the enormous tank clear. Then he fired into the rear armor. The weakest point, 18 millimeters of steel. The M62 punched through and detonated the ammunition. The Panther exploded, 3 down, 3 remaining. The 4th Panther commander finally realized the disaster. His radio exploded with confused, urgent German voices. They had lost 3 tanks in 90 seconds. No visible enemy, just explosions in the fog. The Panther stopped. Its turret rotated, searching. Hartman's driver moved the M18 again, full speed. The Hellcat circled right, 50 feet. The gunner kept the tank in sight, waiting for the flank. The Panther's side armor came into view. Fire, direct hit. The German tank began burning, 4 down. 2 Panthers left. The Germans panicked. Both reversed fast. German doctrine called for immediate withdrawal when ambushed. But reversing in the fog was deadly. The 2 Panthers couldn't see. Hartman's M18 pursued at 30. The 5th Panther backed into a drainage ditch, stuck. The crew screamed the engine forward, reverse forward. The gunner fired a side shot. The AP round hit the fuel tank. The Panther erupted in flames. 5 down, 1 Panther remaining. It was retreating faster now, disappearing into the fog. Hartman's driver chased, pushing the M18 to 35 mph on the rough ground. The Panther came back into view, 60 feet away, still reversing. Its commander was standing up, trying to navigate blind. Hartman's gunner fired. The round struck the rear armor, penetrating the engine compartment. The German tank stopped. Dead, the crew abandoned the vehicle. 6 Panthers destroyed. Hartman's M18, 4 minutes of combat. 23 rounds fired, 17 remaining. 0 damage to the Hellcat. And somewhere in the fog, 30 more. German tanks were still advancing. Captain Tom Evans arrived with Company C at 732. 8 more M18s, 12 tank destroyers total. The fog was finally beginning to lift, increasing visibility to 100 feet. The battlefield was revealed, 21 burning. Panthers spread across 300 meters, black smoke choking the morning sky. German crews were scattered, wounded, surrendering or running east. The 130th Panzer Brigade had driven into an ambush and lost half a company in 12 minutes. But the Germans were not retreating. More Panthers were advancing. The 130th started with 45 tanks. 21 were destroyed, 24 were still operational, and those 24 began to spread out. Attempting to flank Company C, Evans deployed his destroyers in a defensive arc. 12 M18s spread across 400 meters. Each Hellcat had a designated overlapping kill zone. The fog was burning off fast. By 0800, visibility would be 500 meters, long enough for Panther guns to be effective, long enough for German gunners to target the M18's thin armor. The math had flipped. At 300 meters, a Panther could penetrate an M18 anywhere front side. The 1-inch armor was useless. But at 300 meters, an M18 could now penetrate a Panther's side armor. Not the front, never the front, but the sides were vulnerable. And Company C had 12 guns. The Germans attacked at 07:48:24. Panthers in 3 columns, 8 tanks each. The center drove toward Company C. The left and right tried to envelop the American flanks. Standard German tactics: pin, flank, destroy. Evans was ready. His M18s were not static. Doctrine demanded mobility, fire, and move. The moment a Hellcat fired, the driver relocated. 20, 50, 100 meters. The Germans could not track the moving targets. Hartman's crew was running on pure adrenaline. 4 minutes of hellish combat. 6 Panthers destroyed, but only 17 rounds left. The gunner's hands shook. The loader's shoulder ached. But they kept fighting. The first German column hit Company C's center. 4 M18s opened fire at 250 meters. The Panthers returned fire instantly, 75mm. High-velocity rounds screaming toward the ridge. But the fog and smoke made targeting impossible. Most shots missed. The American shots, fired from constantly moving positions, did not miss. Panther after Panther took hits. Side armor, track assemblies, engine decks. 2 exploded as AP rounds detonated their ammunition. By 0800, the fog was gone. Visibility, unlimited. The scale of the German defeat was clear. 31. Panthers destroyed, 14 still fighting. Company C had lost 3 M18s, 2 to fire, 1 to mechanical failure. 9 Hellcats remained. The 113th Panzer Brigade broke. The 14 survivors reversed, turned, and fled east. The American destroyers pursued, firing as the range increased to 400, 500 meters. 2 more Panthers were destroyed during the retreat. By 08:15, the Battle of Arracourt-le-Petit was over. 33 German tanks destroyed. 14 escaped. Company C lost 3 M18s, 7 men killed, 11 wounded. And Sergeant Henry Hartman had personally destroyed 6. Panthers in 4 minutes of point blank. Combat with a tank that had a single inch of armor, but the 130th Panzer Brigade was not finished. Intelligence reported German reinforcements. The 111th Panzer Brigade, 45 more Panthers moving toward Arracourt. Expected contact, 1400 hours. Company C was down to 9 operational destroyers. The 704th TD Battalion had proven something profound that morning. The M18 Hellcat could kill Panthers. Not by trading armor, not by matching gun for gun, but by using speed and maneuver. The German tanks were technically superior in every way but velocity. And velocity had 1 battalion headquarters. Received the reports at 0900, 33 Panthers destroyed, 3 M18s lost. A kill-to-loss ratio of 11.1. No American tank unit in Europe had achieved those numbers against Panthers ever. Third Army intelligence demanded confirmation. Some officers refused to believe that. Paper-armored destroyers could destroy the most heavily armored tanks in the German military. Captain Evans provided the proof. Photos, crew testimonies, ammunition counts. Hartman's M18 had fired 28 rounds. 6 Panthers destroyed. 22 rounds hit targets. 6 achieved kills. The efficiency was extraordinary. Most tank battles saw hit rates below $30%. Hartman's crew achieved $78%. The numbers convinced the skeptics, but raised a terrifying question. How did the M18 survive point-blank combat? The answer was fog. Visibility limited to 30 feet. German gunners couldn't target what they couldn't see. The American crews used the fog as armor. They maneuvered constantly, firing from unexpected angles, relocating before the Germans could respond. This was the essence of tank destroyer doctrine, ambush tactics, rapid repositioning, never stand and fight. The M18 was designed for hit-and-run warfare. Most American commanders ignored this, using M18s like static, vulnerable tanks. The 704th followed the doctrine, and they survived. The battle also demonstrated the value of training. The 113th Panzer Brigade crews were green, most with fewer than 10 days in their Panthers. They didn't know how to fight in fog. They didn't maintain spacing. They drove in column formation through unknown terrain against an unseen enemy. Every mistake was fatal. Company C crews were veterans. The 704th had trained for 18 months, practicing ambush tactics, rapid-fire drills, and emergency relocations. The loader cycled rounds in 7 to 9 seconds. Drivers executed full-speed combat maneuvers. Gunners engaged targets in near-zero visibility using sound and movement. That training saved their lives, but training couldn't overcome the numbers approaching. The 111th Panzer Brigade was 6 miles east with 45 fresh Panthers, expected contact by 1400 hours. Company C had 9 operational M18s. Reinforcements, 2 platoons, 8 Hellcats were promised for 1600 hours. Too late. Evans made the decision. Company C would delay the German advance. Establish new ambush positions between Relocate-La Petite and Arracourt. Use the same tactics. Hit and run. Kill and relocate. 9 M18s against 45 Panthers. The math was worse than this morning. But the fog, though lifting, still lingered. Hartman's crew prepared again. 17 rounds remaining. The gunner cleaned the barrel. The loader organized the 76mm AP and HE. The driver checked the engine. Oil pressure normal. Fuel $3-4 full. Track tension good. The M18 was ready. At 11:30, reconnaissance reported German movement. Panthers, lots of them, advancing in a spread formation. They had learned from this morning's mistakes. The 111th wasn't driving blind. They were moving carefully using scouts, maintaining spacing, and the fog was lifting fast. By noon, visibility was 300 meters. The advantage was gone. At 300 meters, German guns were lethal. Panther armor was nearly impenetrable from the front, and 9 American tank destroyers were about to face 45 of Germany's best tanks in broad daylight. The 111th Panzer Brigade attacked at 13:20:45. Panthers 3 battle groups of 15 tanks each, advancing in a line formation, 200 meters between groups. The German commanders were not repeating the 113th's disaster. Company C occupied hull-down positions along a ridgeline west of Arracourt. Only the turrets visible. Evans spread his destroyers across 800 meters, a wide frontage with overlapping fields of fire. The moment they fired, they would reverse down the slope, relocate, and find new positions. Hartman's M18 was on the right flank, covering the southern approach. His sight was ranged to the expected German positions, 400 meters. At that distance, the Panther's gun was accurate. The M18's armor was useless. One hit meant death. But they knew the Panther's weakness. The side armor was only 40 millimeters thick, angled at 30 degrees. An M62 AP round could penetrate at 400 meters if it hit perpendicular. The German tanks crossed the 400-meter line at 13:28. Company C held fire. Evans wanted them closer. 350 meters. 300 meters. At 250 meters, the M18s opened fire. 9 guns, simultaneous engagement. The first volley hit 6 Panthers, 3 kills, 3 mobility kills. The German advance stalled. The Panthers returned fire instantly. 45 guns. Massive firepower. High explosive and AP rounds screamed toward the American positions. Most shots went high. The M18s were small targets, and the German gunners were firing uphill at difficult angles. But 3 rounds found targets. One M18 exploded, its turret blown off, crew killed instantly. Another Hellcat was hit and disabled, its track severed. The crew bailed out. 7 M18s remained operational. 42 Panthers were still fighting. Evans ordered withdrawal. Phase 1 complete. Company C reversed down the slope. The M18s vanished behind the ridge.